everyone, welcome. This is going to be a series where I talk about everything tarot. I think I'm going to have about 16 videos in total when I'm finally finished with this project. But I'm here basically to talk about what is tarot, where does it come from, how can I use the tarot, what's the difference between an oracle and a tarot deck, what tarot deck is best for beginners, and what are the suits? What is the major arcana? What are the suits? So I'm here to talk about that today in this first video. First off, let's start with what is tarot? Tarot is basically using a traditional set of cards, which could be the Rider-Waite deck. It could be a more modern deck, like the Light Seers. It could be any kind of deck. And basically, this deck is used to, not necessarily, a lot of people think about tarot and they think it's foretelling the future. Yes, that is part of it, but it's more about telling people what they already know and letting them hear it from another person's perspective. And I feel that that is very important for them to hear some of these messages from someone else, you know? So really, that is what tarot is. It's a way of using the divine to allow people to have guidance in their own life. A lot of people think tarot is just about getting your cards read to, find out if you're going to get married, if you're going to have the future that you want. And it can be very large scope like this, but that's essentially not what I use tarot for, and what a lot of people really actually use tarot for is to help other people through the passages that they're presently going through and to get out of cycles. We'll talk about that more later. So where does tarot come from? All right, tarot, we don't really know, is how I'm gonna begin this. We don't really know where the tarot comes from exactly. There are, cards dating back to medieval times. There are cards dating back to the Egyptians. There are cards dating back to, my friend told me once that, tarot is based off of a playing card game from Italy. There's all of these different stories about how tarot came about, and we're just not really sure exactly how, but we do know that the Rider-Waite deck was designed by Pamela Colman Smith and Arthur Edward Waite. And they basically designed a deck of cards. The cover may look different to different people. Hopefully you guys can see that without it looking kind of crazy. Basically, this 78 card deck is always the same, okay? It's always got the same cards in it, and pretty much they can be interpreted how you want to, but once you learn how to interpret them, it's, you can do it, the way that you want to. It's very much a creative thing too. I feel like a lot of people get into tarot and they're very intimidated by it. They're like, I don't know how I'm going to learn all of these 78 cards and all of the very variable meanings and all of the keywords. And I want to approach this in a way that we're not going to be really using keywords. We're going to be using stories. We're going to be using examples from readings that I've done in the past. We're going to be using examples from books I've read. And I would really encourage you, as we're going along through these lessons, if you are, you like to learn auditory, so you like to listen, I would highly recommend that you listen, but also take notes. I want you to take notes, even if you're not a note taker, because all of this information is going to become a book for you at the end. This is going to be a book for you. I have a book of my own. Let me grab it real quick. Okay, so I have this little yellow binder of mine, and it is full of everything I originally learned about tarot. I've got it upside down, but it's full of everything I originally learned about tarot when I was reading books, when I was watching podcasts, when I was watching videos, and I created kind of my own guidebook. And this helped me at the beginning when I needed, more information about a certain thing and I had to go back to the book. It was perfect because all of the information was there. I didn't have to scroll back in a video or in a book or something like that. So I'm gonna highly recommend that to you guys. If you are a very kinesthetic learner, I'm going to recommend you have cards in front of you. So if we're talking about, okay, we'll pull a card. If we're talking about the tower, I want you to have the tower out in front of you. This is something else that you can also do. If you're writing, you're listening, you're doing all of this, have the tower out in front of you. Look at the imagery. We're going to talk about the imagery a lot. You know, if you're a visual learner, this is going to be very good for you as well, because you're looking at me, you're looking at the cards that I'm putting out as we're going along. And I want you to have a deck in front of you if you have one. If you don't, you can always Google the cards as you're going along. So if we're talking about the tower, I will explain the way it looks visually, the way that I remember certain things about it, and we'll go through that as well. Obviously, I am musical, but I don't know that I can tie in the musical end of learning into this yet, unless songs come to me as I am, you know, doing some of these, which I may toss in every now and again. So hopefully we're going to get to everybody's learning styles. I used to be a teacher for a little while, so I'm really hoping that all of these lessons are going to be easy for you guys to pick up and look back on and feel proud of, you know, that you were able to finally pick up tarot. Okay, so that's essentially what this is all going to be about. So now let's talk about the difference between a tarot and an oracle deck. I get this question a lot, okay? So I'm going to use my Wisdom of the Oracle deck as an example, and then we'll just say regular tarot, okay? So this is an oracle deck. This is a tarot deck. The tarot deck is always going to say tarot on it. The oracle deck may not necessarily say oracle on it, but when you purchase it, it probably will. So the difference between tarot and oracle basically is that the tarot is based off the Rider-Waite deck, okay? No matter what author did it, no matter what book it has, no matter what art it has, it's always going to have the tower in it. It's always going to have the Seven of Swords in it. It's always going to have the Wheel of Fortune in it. Those cards are always going to be the same, okay? So the meanings are always going to pretty much be the same. And in this course, we're going to talk more about tarot than oracle, but I'll toss in some little gems about oracle as well. So I love oracle decks as well. Oracle decks are very creative. They can be created by any author. They can have as many cards as they want, and they can say whatever they want. So let me show you some of the cards from my oracle deck. So this card is an observer, breathe, go the distance, co-create, orphaned. So you can see these are not very traditional. Well, you may not know yet, but it doesn't have the tower in it. It doesn't have the Seven of Swords in it. They're very different. And they're written by somebody and illustrated by somebody else, you know, in that way, to be different from a tarot deck, but to kind of add value in the same kind of way. I find that oracle decks are softer, you know, more gentle. Sometimes they can pack a punch, though, I will be honest, but the tarot decks are very straight to the point. And I find that you will find that as well. I used to think the tarot decks were softer, but now that I've gotten really into tarot, I realize that there's difference. All right, so what tarot deck is best for a beginner? Okay, this is, let's say you've never had a tarot deck before, or maybe you just got the Light Seers, or you just got, I have another one, Mystic Mondays, or, you know, you just got a regular tarot deck. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I do not want you to start with one of these. I want you to start with the Rider-Waite. And my reasoning for that is it's the original. Any book, any podcast, anything you're gonna learn off of, you're gonna want to know the original, okay? It's like, I'm trying to think. Okay, so it's like, when you get this, it's like never having seen an original movie, but watching all of the recreated versions. You know what that mean? You know what I mean by that? So I really feel like you need to start with one of these. I really think on Amazon, they're like $9, guys, maybe $9 to $12. Ships in 2 days. You really want one of these. The guidebook is not going to be great, but that's what this course is for, okay? And these cards have held up like crazy. They are well loved. I've gotten them wet on accident. They're incredible. They've stood the test of time, and they've connected with me more than any of my other decks. So this is why I recommend the beginner to get the Rider-Waite. You're gonna want to understand that imagery, even though it's old, even though it feels weird. doesn't feel modern, you're gonna want to learn it, okay? It's like when we learn about music too. We want to learn about theory, you know, before we jump into writing pop songs. You know, you can do the latter, but it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to figure it out. I'm gonna toss in stuff like that as I'm going along. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about here is what are the suits and what is the major arcana. So those are kind of how I'm gonna break up the videos from here on. The major arcana is a set of 22 cards, which range from the Fool to the World. Okay, so the Fool represents the beginning of a journey. The World represents the end of a journey. So throughout those cards, we're going through all of these very human cycles of things humans experience and major themes throughout humans' lives. So the major arcana is typically a big theme. You know, when it shows up in a reading, it's a very big theme. It means that that point in the reading is very important. Not to say that any of the minor arcana isn't important, but the major arcana cards, you'll know them because they'll have like Roman numerals on them, typically, and they'll be called something like the Devil or Death or the Empress. You know, they'll have names like that, not pentacles, cups, wands, swords. You know, it will not say those. Okay, now to talk about the latter, the suits. So first we have we're gonna talk first about the cups, okay? We're gonna talk about the cups suit. There is 10 cups cards, but then there's also four court cards, okay? So kind of like playing cards, if that makes sense. It's a similar format, okay? So just imagine like a regular deck of cards, you know, like a house has the suits. So we have suits the same way. We have 4 suits. We have the cups, we have the swords, we have the wands, we have the pentacles, and each of them represents something different and they have different themes in them, okay? Sometimes those themes can go together, they can merge. Hi, kitty. This is Trixie. She's very sweet. I hope you guys like cats. She won't bother you though. Hi, baby. You wanna say hey? No, she's being a little shy. So definitely I'm gonna go out through this course and explain the difference between all of these. I'm gonna explain the cards in depth. I'm gonna do my best to do all of that, and I really can't wait to see all of the progress you guys make along this way. And I'm excited to go on this journey with you. All right, thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you more. All right.